Hey y'all, happy Sunday. I hope everyone's had a great weekend and you're looking forward to a great week ahead. For those of you that are new here, I'm Josh from Louisiana, and on Sundays I take you back to the bayou and enjoy a show that was gone too soon, Southern Charm New Orleans. Still battling the term to get it back on our screens. Anyways, for those of you who join me weekly, obviously we're doing things a little bit differently. I'm not doing my normal live recap. They reference red beans and rice so much in this episode that it got me craving. So I figured that I'd just go ahead and make my own. I know this is typically done on Mondays, but I work on Mondays, so here we are. Want to give one quick shout out to my very good friend Renee, who is, I consider her like the Southern Martha Stewart. She provided me with the recipe, so if you are interested, I will post her Instagram handle down below, and you can give her a follow. She's got some good stuff. Now, laissez les bon temps rouler. Before we get started, let me put on my apron because I have nearly ruined this Louisiana sweatshirt about 500 times already. Let's go through the ingredients before we dive into the episode. Onions, garlic, green onions, green bell pepper, a pound of red kidney beans that I let soak overnight, ham hocks, smoked sausage, andouille sausage, gotta be andouille, 2 quarts of beef broth, vegetable oil, salt and pepper, cute little salt and pepper shakers that I got from Capri, Creole Seasoning, Worcestershire, thyme leaves, bay leaves, cayenne pepper, and this is going to be fresh ground black pepper. Alright, now let's get into the episode while I'm chopping my vegetables. So we're at our last day at the Myrtles, and we've got random socks in Barry and Tamika's room, which kind of feel like that was a little bit of a production thing because I don't think just random socks appeared in their room. I do believe that the whole thing about Jon waking up with a missing sock was probably real. Oh shit, I forgot my measuring spoons. Anyways, yes, I do believe that Jon missing his sock was probably real because I know people that that's happened to. And as y'all saw last week, Jamie actually had her earring stolen by Chloe. So, not a coincidence. Hold on, I gotta read this real quick. Anyway, so we got the random socks in Barry and Tamika's room. We've got Jon missing a sock. We've got Reagan, who was so scared the night before that she left her door open, which, you know what, honestly in St. Francisville, it's so safe that it doesn't matter if you leave your door open because nothing's really gonna happen. And the ghosts aren't gonna do anything to you. I don't know why everybody's so scared of ghosts. But then, we find out that Justin left the night before because he just couldn't handle it. He said that he didn't mess with ghosts, and I gotta be honest with you, I don't think that Justin was necessarily having the intense pains that he was having in his chest as much as he just wanted an excuse to get the hell out of there. Which, fine, you know, some people just don't mess with that. My brother-in-law is the same way. When my brother-in-law is so scared of anything spooky or horror related. When I was a kid, he was so terrified of Are You Afraid of the Dark? Now this is my brother-in-law, who is much older than I am. He was so scared of it, when the music would come on for the show, oh my God, I can't chop and talk at the same time. He covered his eyes, was walking to the TV to turn it off, and then the dog ran by him and he almost had a heart attack. And you know what? He's from New Orleans too, so maybe that's like a New Orleans thing. But I don't know. I'm not really scared of ghosts or anything like that. Anyways, the cast leaves so they can head back to New Orleans, but not before stopping at the Bluffs Golf Resort for a little lunch, a little drama, tea time, and shopping. Shit, I need more garlic. Anyways, while they're at lunch, Barry and Tamika ended up getting into it. So Tamika was having a heartfelt moment that she was talking about the death of her daddy and how at, I think she said 36, he just dropped dead of a heart attack, and how heartbreaking it was for her mama because, you know, her mama lost the love of her life. And then Barry, who did not realize what Tamika was talking about, in that moment asked somebody to like pass the sauce or something like that, and Tamika got pissed. But Barry didn't even realize what Tamika was talking about. He said that there were like 5 different conversations going on at the same time. And you know, you can't fault him for that if he didn't know what she was saying. And you know what, also at the same time, Barry doesn't seem like the type to be ugly, you know, and especially with his wife. He wouldn't disrespect his wife. I mean, hell, look at what happened when Jon Moody's friend called her insecure. We all know how that ended, which actually they brought up again. So then Sonny, Tamika's brother, referenced her saying like she seemed a little insecure, and we all know Tamika, that is a trigger word for her, and I just threw trash into my choppings. Great. They're all at the table, and you know, Sonny's trying to be the voice of reason, and he's telling Tamika, he's like, you know, Barry didn't say anything, or he wasn't trying to be insensitive to you. He didn't even understand what you were talking about. But Tamika has that thing that she just kind of starts seeing red, and you got to give her a minute, because it takes her a second to come back down to earth once you piss her off. Which, I mean, I can relate. I'm the same way. Don't piss me off. When Tamika got so upset, Barry was just so taken aback. He was like, what is going on? This all leads to Barry feeling like Tamika is stretched too thin and too high-strung. I'm paraphrasing. He didn't say that specifically, but that she is like a little too volatile sometimes, and he thinks it's because she's stretched so thin. But Tamika's a boss babe. I mean, she is out there killing it, but at the same time, you know, there comes some sacrifices. All right, so we're done with lunch. Tamika is over it. She doesn't want to talk about it anymore. Again, I'm the same way. Once I'm done talking about a subject, I don't keep pushing me. So the ladies head off to shopping at Grandmother's Buttons, which, R.I.P., that was a really cool store. I don't think they're open anymore. And then the guys go to play golf at the Bluffs. The thing that cracked me up the most is that Jon Moody is so serious about his sports and his athleticism that he thought that he was going to be the rock star of the show. He was up there and he was like stretching and he was practicing his swing and everything like that. And then he gets up there and misses 3 times. He eventually hit it pretty good, I guess, but he was not any better than any of the other guys. You know, talking and cutting at the same time doesn't really work for me. I'm too ADD. I'm trying. I feel like I'm chopping like Prince Naveen from Princess and the Frog right now.
What?
Listen, I'm not the best person at cutting onions or any vegetable for that matter, but it doesn't matter how slow or fast you do it, all taste the same. Now we're at Grandma's Buttons, or Grandmother's Buttons, excuse me. And sweet old ladies, they've got fresh lemonade. Was that lemonade or iced tea? Either way, very southern. That has bitters in it. And in case y'all didn't remember, Reagan's family invented the bitters in New Orleans in like the 1700s. Of course, they end up talking about ghosts and everything. And then the lady's like, well, you know, we have a ghost here too. And and she says, yes, they named him George. And one night, George had like taken down all the cards that were in the on the display, and there were only 2 that were sitting face up. One was I love you, and the other one was will you marry me? And of course, Kelsey, who you know Kelsey is just dying for Justin to propose to her, she immediately reads into that. And then, of course, Tamika in her confessional immediately reads into Kelsey's reading into it, and she can't even handle it. But it was a cute moment, and very Louisiana, very spooky, you know, cutesy, just how I like it. Then we have Tamika talking about her argument with Barry. And she and Reagan are having a conversation about it. And you know, props to Reagan for being like totally self-aware about the situation. She's, you know, trying to think about giving her advice and everything, but Reagan's like, I don't know, like, I mean, look at my marriage is ass up right now. That's what she said. But she still at the same time cares about her friend. But then Tamika starts getting angry with her for like meddling. But if y'all remember from like the first episode, Tamika started asking Reagan about her marriage. Tamika was getting angry about Reagan asking about, or like kind of asserting herself into her marriage. But I think that Reagan, like Tamika from the first episode, was just trying to be a good friend and be there for her. So, I don't know, I can't really, I definitely don't fault Reagan. I can kind of see where Tamika's coming from, but at the same time, Tamika needs to remember that she did the exact same thing to Reagan. Gotta concentrate again. So I'm almost done chopping all my vegetables. One thing that Renee did tell me is that you need to save some of the green onions for garnish, which, I mean, I knew that, but just for y'all's, you know, edification. You save a little bit so you can put it on top whenever your red beans and rice is done. I didn't make too big of a mess. Definitely thought I was gonna make a bigger mess. Pause before we get back into the rest of the episode. I am going to start cooking down my vegetables in a little bit of vegetable oil, and obviously I'm doing it in a cast iron pot. That's for the cornbread. This is for the red beans. So I'm gonna cook this down for about 4 minutes. Let me get my vegetables. All right, so I'm going to add my vegetables to my cast iron pot and going to cook those down for about 4 minutes. Cook those babies down. All right, now I'm gonna add my sausage and my seasonings. Now, the recipe calls for, I think it was like a pound of sausage, but I always like extra sausage, so I'm gonna do a little bit more than that. Which, saying that now, I know that some of y'all are gonna make a joke about that, but let's try to keep it tame in the comment section, please. Spices. I pre-measured all of that, so. And by measured, I mean I eyeballed it. Because, you know, it's like they say in the South, we don't measure anything, we just sprinkle until the spirits of our ancestors tell us to stop. So I'm using smoked andouille, and oh my God, if y'all could just smell this right now, it's like heaven. I guarantee y'all that this LA apartment has never smelled so Cajun. Okay, now I'm gonna add in my red beans, which just in time because we are about to start talking about red bean night at Tamika and Barry's house with Mama. So I've added my beans, and now I'm adding my Worcestershire and my beef stock. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this to a boil over high heat. And then I'm going to reduce to a simmer, and I'm going to let it simmer for about 2 hours. Alright, before we get back to the episode, just a little bit of backstory on the history of red beans and rice. If you didn't watch the episode, Barry's mama did talk a little bit about it. Traditionally, you would have Sunday dinner, and then you'd have ham, and you'd have leftover meat and bones. So on Monday, the ladies would do all of their washing for the week. In order to do that and also have a meal prepared, they would do red beans and rice. And they would cook the leftover ham bones and ham meat with the beans, and they just leave that on the stove all day to cook. Oh shit, my cornbread. Alright, now if you're from the South, you know you can't have red beans and rice without cornbread. So, I've got all my ingredients here. I've got my flour, my baking soda, baking powder, and salt, my brown sugar, honey, my buttermilk, and you can't forget your cornmeal. And then you mix. Y'all aren't going to be able to hear me while I'm doing this, so yeah, I'll see you at the stove. Okay, cornbread is ready to go in the oven. I added some jalapenos and some green onions for a little added color and flavor. So I'm going to put this in the oven for about 20-30 minutes, just until, you know, it's not liquidy. Now back to our regularly scheduled programming. So we got Mama cooking red beans and rice at Barry and Tamika's house. Which, side note, I loved when Hunter would not cut Tamika a break. He said, Because Tamika was like, oh yeah, are y'all ready for supper? Look what I made. And he said, are you kidding me? Mama made that. So they're talking, they're cooking and everything. Tamika's trying to help as best she can. It's very obvious that Tamika is not a connoisseur in the kitchen. Barry's mama even says, you killing that onion, just when she was trying to chop the onion. Which, you know, to be fair, you saw me trying to chop an onion earlier, and I can't do it when I am trying to talk. I can barely stir and talk at the same time. So I don't know how well this is going to work out for me, like the whole cooking and trying to talk to y'all at the same time. But anyways, Barry starts, you know, kind of coming down on Tamika a little bit about how the fact that she's too busy. She's at work too much. She's not spending enough time with the family. And Barry's mama talks about how even working mothers, because Barry's mama was a single mom, and even her being a single mother and working and everything, she still had dinner prepared. And so I think that Barry has this certain level of expectation of what Tamika should be doing. But you gotta, you know, understand that not everybody's the same way. You know, not all women are gonna want to be in the kitchen doing all that stuff. Some people are good at just ordering takeout. Listen, I did that for a long time. I mean, I'm sure my grandmother was not too proud of that, but, you know, you do what you gotta do, especially for someone like Tamika who's so busy. I mean, she's doing all these events, she's going to parties, she's hosting things, she's doing her regular job at WGNO, so, I don't know, I think she needs a little bit more of a break. Simultaneously, we have Jeff and Reagan having their own red beans and rice night. And we start hearing about how, you know, Jeff's doing with therapy and he's doing that scream therapy, which I think Reagan was a little put off by. She was like, you're not actually like going out into our backyard and screaming, are you? Anyways, it seems like therapy's really helping Jeff out, and, you know, we love to see it. Oh yeah. Look how good that looks. I mean, I guess if you don't like jalapenos, then you probably wouldn't like this, but I like a little spice in my cornbread. Okay, so let's get back to the show. So we know what's going on with Tamika and Barry. Barry wants Tamika home more, but she can't because she is working too much. Well, not too much. I don't want to say too much. I mean, she's passionate about her career, and you know she loves her family, but she is getting up at like 3 a.m., having to do the morning news, having to go to events and everything like that. As a public figure, you have responsibilities that you have to, you know, fulfill. But at the same time, like I said, I completely understand where Barry's coming from, and he wants to spend more time with her, and he wants her to spend more time with the kids and everything like that. But it's just kind of like a catch-22. Then we end up in a ring shop with Justin and Barry, and I feel like we were getting catfished this entire episode, like with these allusions to Justin maybe proposing. You had the lady at grandmother's buttons talking about the I love you, will you marry me cards. Now they're looking at rings, and come to find out, by the end of the episode, you find out that he's only looking for an anniversary present. But while we're in the jewelry shop, Barry says that Tamika lost her wedding ring, which, I mean, I'd freak out if I lost a piece of jewelry to begin with, but my wedding ring, I would die, even though I'm not married. But she's chill. She's not too worried about it because, you know, she loses things all the time, so she's sure it's going to turn up. I don't know. I would lose my freaking mind. So we keep, like, going back to, like, this idea that something's wrong with Barry and Tamika's marriage. But, I don't know, it feels to me like they're just going through regular marital issues. Like, it's not anything that anybody should be concerned about. The storylines seem like a bit of a reach for me because, I don't know, they seem solid to me. Gotta leave that sitting for 13 minutes. So, let's go have a seat. Okay, then after we are done with the scene with Justin and Barry at the jewelry shop, then we go to Jon Moody. And honestly, it took me a minute to realize that I wasn't even taking notes on the scene because I was so captivated by, I'm always captivated by the way that Jon Moody talks because I just find him so interesting. Like, he's a very deep person, and you get to see him working on some of his art and everything, but he's so dedicated and focused and he's always looking for ways to continually grow. And I think that's what makes him, as part of this series, just a really standout. I hate to say character because these are actually people, but I find him to be a very admirable person. Also in the scene, you get to see him working on some of his art, which is really cool. And if you haven't checked out his website, I believe it's just jonmoody.com. I'll look that up and then I'll put it in the description because I think that you should all see it. I love the story that his sister Sherry told, because when he was little, like he's been into art ever since he was little, and they were at a restaurant and he was just doodling on a napkin, and his mother realized that he was actually doodling. There was a woman that had her butt crack showing and he was doodling that, and they were like, oh my god, that's so inappropriate. But it's just funny to see that ever since he was a little kid, he's always really been into art and everything. Oh, I think the rice is almost done, so I'll be right back. Okay, actually the rice needs like 10 more minutes. So we get to date night. We have two separate date nights. We have Barry and Tamika, and we have Justin and Kelsey. So of course it just culminates to, you know, Barry and Tamika talking about she works too much, you know, this, that, and the other. And Tamika says that she is willing to, you know, try to scale back or at least make more of an effort for her family to be there for them, which, you know, I could have seen that coming, but I feel like we all could have. But Barry's whole thing was that he felt like she was spreading herself too thin, and he didn't want how driven she is to cause collateral damage with her kids and him. So understandable at the end of the day, and Tamika heard the concerns and was willing to make adjustments. So we'll see what happens with that in the coming episodes. I feel like we're nearing the end of this first season, but now to Justin and Kelsey at Tableau. First off, I gotta say that they ordered the redfish with the blue crab butter sauce, which I feel like maybe next week I should try to do that. I don't know, it depends on how editing this goes, because I feel like I was just running around like a chicken with my head cut off. But so we get to Kelsey talking to Justin about the fact that she's 30, Justin's 35, and it's true, like in the South, by that time you should have been married with kids. I mean, I always thought that I'd be married by this age, and I'm almost 40, but anyways, I digress. We finally find out that the reason that Justin had gone to the jewelry shop was to get a necklace for their anniversary. And you could see the hope in Kelsey's face that this was going to be a ring. Kelsey is ready to get married, and Justin is just not there yet. And I mean, you got to give it to him. At least he has a set plan, and he knows when the time is right, he's going to propose, but it's just not right now. And that is pretty much where we left off on season 1, episode... Are you fucking kidding me? And that's where we left off on season 1, episode 6 of Southern Charm, New Orleans. With that being said, let's take a look at how everything came out. And that's all, y'all. All right, y'all, that's all for me today. I hope you enjoyed this. If you are interested in making your own red beans and rice, I'm gonna leave the recipes down below. Also, if you have any good recommendations for recipes that you'd like me to try out, I would love to know about those too, because I had a lot of fun doing this. Haven't even edited it yet, so I don't know how unhinged it's gonna be, but I guess we'll see. Also, a huge thank you to my very good friend Renee. Thank you for sharing your recipe with me, and I have been sampling it throughout, so I already know it's gonna be delicious. If you don't follow me on social media, I'm Josh from Louisiana on Instagram, and you can find me here every Sunday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thanks so much, and have a great week.